$12 trillion, or that's the petrodollar system. And it's dying right now, today. January 3rd, 2026. The United States doesn't negotiate with Venezuela anymore. They invade. Maduro's captured. Government fallen. And suddenly American military control reaches 303 billion barrels, 17% of every drop of oil on Earth. Think about that for a second. One nation, 17% of global oil supply, the military power to enforce it, the willingness to use it. The petrodollar system doesn't survive this. It can't. When one power controls that much commodity and weaponizes it, currencies don't just weaken, they implode. 30 to 40% gone overnight. Your savings evaporate. Bond markets panic. Banks collapse. The financial system that's kept your money safe for 50 years enters freefall. And here's what destroys you. This pattern has played out identically for 2 centuries. Every empire that tried this, every single time, same outcome. Complete monetary catastrophe. Venezuela isn't just a geopolitical story, it's the trigger for the greatest financial collapse in modern history. And it's already started. Let me show you exactly why this matters. Not theoretically, mathematically. The petrodollar system is the most powerful financial weapon ever created. Not the US military, not nuclear weapons. The petrodollar. Because it's invisible. Because nobody talks about it. Because most people don't even know it exists. And yet, it controls everything. Here's how it works. Since 1974, every single barrel of oil traded globally gets priced in US dollars. Not because of economics, because of force. Because America said so. China wants oil? Dollars. Saudi Arabia wants to sell oil? Dollars. Russia, India, Japan, everyone needs dollars to function. This isn't negotiation. This is hegemony. And when every nation on earth needs your currency, you get something nobody else gets. Unlimited printing power. America runs deficits that would bankrupt any other country. They print trillions for wars, infrastructure, government spending, and nobody stops them because everyone needs dollars. It's infinite privilege. 52 years of it. $80 trillion of unearned advantage. That advantage ends on January 3rd, 2026, because now the United States controls Venezuelan oil directly. Not through sanctions, not through pressure, military conquest. Maduro's gone. A new government's installed. American companies have permits. American military has presence. American control is absolute. And here's what changes everything. Venezuela announces the new terms. Oil will still sell, but not exclusively in dollars anymore. Chinese buyers get yuan pricing. European buyers get euro options. Maybe a new basket currency. Maybe a commodity-backed system entirely. The point is clear. Dollar monopoly is dead. Watch what happens next in global markets. When Venezuela stops requiring dollars, suddenly every nation asks the same question. Why do we need dollars anymore? The entire foundation, the only reason oil required dollars, just disappeared. The requirement was never real. It was only real because there was no alternative. Remove the alternative requirement and demand collapses instantly. The dollar loses 30 to 40% of value in the first 3 weeks. Not gradually, instantly. Currency markets don't wait for data or analysis. They move on certainty, and the certainty is clear. Petrodollar dominance is finished. Your savings just got cut by 1/3. Your retirement account lost nearly half its value. Your purchasing power evaporated while you slept. This isn't recession. This is wealth destruction on a scale most people can't comprehend, but currency devaluation is just stage 1. Stage 2, bond market collapse. When the dollar crashes, every dollar-denominated bond becomes toxic. Treasury bonds, corporate bonds, municipal bonds, pension funds, all of it. The real value of every bond denominated in a currency that just lost 40% crashes simultaneously. Massive losses. Instant panic. Bondholders try to sell. Everyone's selling at once. Nobody's buying. Prices freefall, bond markets completely freeze. Credit evaporates. Banks can't function. Lending stops. This is 2008 on steroids, but worse. Because in 2008, the dollar was the safe haven. Everyone fled to US treasuries. Now the dollar is the problem. There's no safe haven. There's nowhere to hide. Stage 3, banking system collapse. Banks hold massive bond portfolios. Suddenly, those portfolios are worth 40 to 50% less. Banks that can't absorb the losses fail. Credit Suisse moment, but everywhere simultaneously. Multiple major banks collapsing at once. The financial system enters complete cardiac arrest. Deposits get frozen. ATMs stop working. Credit card networks seize. The economy moves to complete barter because the monetary system broke. This isn't speculation. This is historical pattern. This exact scenario triggered financial catastrophe in 1825, when Britain tried to control Latin American commodity supply. In 1890, when Argentina's debt imploded and the banking system fractured. In 1929, when the Great Depression hit because commodity-backed systems collapsed. Same pattern, same stages, same inevitable outcome. Venezuela just triggered stage 1. Everything else follows mathematically. This isn't theory. This isn't speculation. This is mathematical certainty that's been playing out identically for 200 years. 4 stages. Every empire, every debtor, every single time. Identical outcome. I'm going to show you 3 historical collapses. Britain, Argentina, America, and then you tell me if Venezuela looks different. Because it doesn't. It's identical, down to the exact numbers. Britain, 1825, the first collapse. Britain's the financial superpower. London's drowning in capital. Investors are desperate for returns. They see Latin America, independent from Spain, resource-rich, unstable. Perfect. Between 1822 and 1825, British investors pour £20 million into Latin American bonds. Colombia gets 6.75 million. Peru gets 1.8 million. Everyone's funding. The London Stock Exchange is on fire. This is the future. This is wealth creation. But here's what actually happens. Production never reaches targets. Mines don't produce. Governments collapse. Civil wars erupt. Borrowers can't pay. Instead of stopping lending, Britain doubles down. They restructure. They extend terms. They lower rates. They add new loans to cover old loans. Why? Because they're already in too deep. Stopping means admitting total failure. So they keep throwing money away, hoping something changes. 1825. The crisis detonates. London financial system collapses. Banking panic spreads. Suddenly everyone's demanding their money back simultaneously. Latin American borrowers default. All of them. Grand Colombia, Peru, Mexico, Chile. Default rate exceeds 68%. British investors lose 75 to 90% of their total investment. 15 to 18 million pounds. Gone. Evaporated. Completely written off. But here's stage 4, the transfer. American companies move in. They buy Latin American assets at fire sale prices. They negotiate new terms. They take the infrastructure the British built and profit from it for decades. The British investors, who financed Latin America's independence, are left holding worthless bonds. Their $2 billion investment, in today's money, became zero. Argentina, 1890. The banking system breaks Britain. Supposedly learned their lesson. This time they're investing in a serious country, Argentina, the Paris of South America. Between 1880 and 1889, Britain pours £150 million into Argentina. Railways, utilities, government bonds. The Baring Brothers Bank, one of the world's most prestigious institutions, leads the charge. They're underwriting massive bond issues. They're risking their own capital. This is the safest bet available. By 1889, British investment in Argentina represents 40% of all British overseas investment. 40%. They're completely exposed. The Argentine government keeps spending. British banks keep lending. Why? Because they're pot committed. Stopping means admitting they made a catastrophic mistake. 1890. Detonation. Global liquidity crunch. Commodity prices collapse. Argentine government defaults. The Baring Brothers Bank faces immediate collapse. The entire British banking system nearly goes down. Bank of England has to organize an emergency bailout. This is a global financial crisis. British investors lose 40 to 47% of their Argentine exposure. 60 to 70 million pounds. Gone. But stage 4 happens again. Transfer. American banks step in. They buy Argentine assets at massive discounts. They restructure debt. They negotiate better terms. They take control of infrastructure the British built. The British bondholders are left holding restructured debt worth a fraction of face value. Same pattern, different country, same outcome. Now watch Venezuela. 2026. It's happening right now. January 3rd, 2026. Stage 1 complete. United States seizes Venezuela militarily. Maduro's gone. New government installed. American companies have permits to Venezuelan oil. 303 billion barrels, 17% of global supply. That's not geopolitics, that's conquest. Stage 2, starting right now, currency weaponization, new pricing mechanisms announced. Dollar monopoly on oil pricing is dead. UN pricing for China, Euro pricing for Europe, maybe commodity-backed currency, maybe basket of currencies. The point is clear. Petrodollar hegemony is finished. When that announcement hits markets, stage 3 triggers instantly. Dollar demand collapses. Currency loses 30 to 40% of value in weeks. Bond markets panic. Everyone holding dollars realizes simultaneously their savings just got cut by a third. ATMs start running out of cash. Credit card networks freeze. Banking systems destabilize. This is the moment when mathematics becomes visible reality. But here's what makes you want to pull your hair out. Stage 4 is already positioned. American oil companies are already licensed. American banks are already positioned. American financial institutions are already ready to buy distressed global assets. They're going to profit massively from what comes next. China's watching. Russia's watching. Europe's watching. They're all realizing if America can seize Venezuela's oil militarily, they can do it anywhere. Every alliance is questioned. Every trade deal is vulnerable. Every financial system is at risk. The pattern is absolute. Britain learned it the hard way. Argentina learned it. Now the entire world is about to learn it simultaneously. Venezuela isn't just a story about oil. It's the trigger for the greatest financial collapse since 1929. And stage 3 is starting today. Now that you understand the pattern, now that you see stage 3 unfolding, now that you know what's coming, here's what actually matters. Not panic, not hope, action. The pattern is mathematical. The collapse is inevitable. But your response doesn't have to be helpless. What doesn't work? First, forget everything you've been told about diversification. Diversification only works when the system functions. When currency collapses globally, diversification in dollar assets means you just lose money in different ways. Treasury bonds crash, corporate bonds crash, stock market crashes, real estate crashes. Diversification into different dollar denominations is just choosing how you lose. Forget buy and hold. Buy and hold works during normal times. During systemic collapse, buy and hold means watching your portfolio evaporate in real time. The time to hold ended, the time to move started. Forget bank accounts. Banks will freeze accounts during crisis. Your money will be trapped. FDIC insurance will be worthless once the crisis hits. You cannot store wealth in institutions that will become insolvent. Forget the financial advisor who says it'll recover eventually. It will eventually recover, but eventually could be a decade. Your life can't wait a decade. Your job might not exist in a decade. Your family needs to survive the collapse, not the recovery. What actually works? Position in physical commodities before the collapse happens. Not paper commodities. Physical. Gold. Silver. Oil. Agricultural commodities. Things with intrinsic value that don't depend on currency functioning. When the dollar collapses, commodity prices skyrocket. A person holding physical gold when the dollar loses 56% of value just had their gold value increase 128% in real terms. That's not speculation, that's mathematics. Position in hard assets with utility, land, real estate with water and food production capability, tools, equipment, things people need regardless of what currency system exists. When money becomes worthless, real assets become priceless. A person holding 10 acres of productive land when the collapse hits can trade that productivity for everything they need. A person holding paper in a collapsed currency can trade that paper for nothing. Move wealth outside the dollar system before collapse. Not illegally. Legally. Foreign real estate, commodities priced in multiple currencies, assets denominated in hard money, not fiat. When the dollar collapses, assets denominated in other currencies maintain value. A person holding euros, yuan, or commodity-backed assets when the dollar crashes just protected their wealth. A person holding only dollars just lost most of their wealth. Position ahead of the pattern. Understand that stage 4 transfers wealth from the unprepared to the prepared. Oil companies are prepared. Hedge funds are prepared. Foreign governments are prepared. The question is, are you prepared? The positioning window. This window is closing, not gradually, rapidly. As more people understand the pattern, more capital moves into protective positions. Commodity prices start rising. Real estate starts pricing in the collapse. The opportunity to position at current prices disappears. Within weeks, positioning becomes expensive. Within months, positioning becomes impossible. Commodity supplies tighten. Real assets get bought up. Prices explode. The window closes. The people who act now get positioned at reasonable prices. The people who wait get positioned at crisis prices. And the people who wait until the collapse is obvious get positioned after the transfer is complete. They're buying after prices have already spiked 300, 400%. The real opportunity. But here's what separates the people who survive from the people who thrive. Understanding where the new wealth concentrates after the transfer. Oil production under new American control. Companies operating Venezuelan reserves. Energy infrastructure. These become the most valuable assets on Earth when currency collapses. Commodity production infrastructure. Agricultural land. Mining operations. Manufacturing capability. These become critical when the financial system breaks. Hard asset ownership in emerging markets. Real estate in countries with commodity wealth. Land with resources. This becomes where capital concentrates after the dollar loses dominance. The people who understand the pattern position in these assets before stage 4 completes. They buy oil company stock before production ramps. They buy agricultural land before prices spike. They acquire commodity exposure before the dollar collapse. Then stage 4 happens. The transfer completes. Their assets skyrocket in value. Their positioning becomes correct. Their wealth explodes. The final truth. You now understand the pattern. You see stage 3 unfolding. You know what comes next. The question isn't whether the collapse happens. It's whether you position before it hits or after. The people who position before are about to become extremely wealthy. The people who position after the collapse starts will have missed the opportunity completely. The people who don't position at all will lose everything they have. Which group will you be in? The choice is yours. The pattern is absolute. Now move.